All right, I thought this could be a fun idea for a video as we are nearing the trade deadline. Still a little bit away. It's on Halloween, so that's easy to remember. I thought, you know what? What if I came up with a few trades that in my head would make sense? Now, every time I do this, everyone says that all my trade ideas are terrible, but that's part of the fun, right? Is to start the discussion. And let's just get into it. I have 8 potential trades that in my head make sense, and let's just get into it with, in no particular order, the first one on the list. How about Darren Waller to Miami? Tight end is a position of need for the Miami Dolphins. The Giants would get a 4th back, which I know might be weird because they didn't trade that to get him. But again, the contract is easier now to handle for the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, they don't have a lot of cap space, but they can take it on this year. I did pay attention to the cap and all that stuff. It's easier to get out of. If you want to get out of it the following year, just $7 million in dead cap, and then basically nothing the year after. If you do want to get out of it, if you're Miami, so that's why you get a 4th back for the Giants. Listen, you brought in Darren Waller thinking you'd be a playoff team. It's not happening. Let's move off of him. He's looked all right in flashes, and again, could bring something to Miami. Now, some Dolphins fans might be saying, don't we need to work on our defense, not our offense? But hey, at the end of the day, best defense is the good offense, right? And the reality is, if you're adding points to your team, then your defense doesn't have to do as much, right? If your offense is now going to score 32 instead of 30, well, then your defense, if they give up 31, you win instead of lose. So that's why I'm going with them here. Next up is a bit of an obvious one. It's been speculated a lot, and I even have a backup if this one doesn't work out. But I have Kirk Cousins to Atlanta. The Vikings would get a 2nd-round pick back. And again, the compensation, I'm guessing here a little bit on what makes sense to me. You can debate this if you want to. 2nd feels right, though, for a quarterback who is, in the last year of his deal. Maybe Minnesota wants to re-sign him. That they might. I could see that happening. But again, they do have an analytically minded general manager, and analytics kind of say Kirk Cousins contracts can get you to the playoffs. Don't really get you much further than that typically. For the Atlanta Falcons, though, they'd like to be in the playoffs, right? Why not make something like this happen where they can potentially be a playoff team? It would instantly make them favorites to win the NFC South. Now, you'd have to, give them time to learn the playbook and all of that, so it wouldn't be a complete seamless transition right away. But I don't know. Why not give up a 2nd-round pick to make the playoffs? Like that makes sense. And who knows what happens when you get in. I just think it'd be interesting, and you can decide if you want to re-sign him, especially one for Arthur Smith. Years are kind of adding up of being a head coach and not making the playoffs. At a certain point, people are going to start to want you fired if you don't start seeing results. A way to get results is to get Kirk Cousins. And again, it would only work if Minnesota wants to get rid of him. And also, worth mentioning, he does have a no-trade clause, so you'd have to get him to accept to go. But, we've seen in other sports, you can get guys to waive no-trade clauses. It's possible. But, those are, if he doesn't, then I guess you can't make this trade. But something to look into. Next up would be just a fun one. You know what? This one, I just want this to happen more than anything else. What if Derrick Henry went to Baltimore, right? Titans could get a 2nd-round pick back because I do think that, as of right now, there is value. I do think that for the Ravens, they could be looking at this as a way where they can win a Super Bowl, right? I don't think their halfback room is bad. They don't need another running back, but Derrick Henry isn't just another running back, and he still has shown flashes here. So for Tennessee, it's probably a good move for both perspectives, I think. And I'm usually kind of the king of don't value running backs that highly. Baltimore's a different team, and Derrick Henry is a different running back. These are 2 exceptions getting paired together. It makes perfect sense for me for them to go after him. And for the Titans, season hasn't gone the way you planned. You now have an injured Ryan Tannehill. Also, that was the backup if, for the Falcons, if Kirk Cousins doesn't want to go there, just get Ryan Tannehill, reunite Tannehill and Arthur Smith. That makes sense. But Tannehill's going to be banged up for a little bit. Why not you just say, hey, this isn't our year. Let's rebuild for next year. Because who knows how much years Henry has left, but he's at least still good now. Speaking of the Titans, how about DeAndre Hopkins to Kansas City? Titans will get a 3rd-round pick back. I think Hopkins has been solid this season. He hasn't been like an elite number 1 receiver, but maybe if you pair him with Mahomes, he would look that way. And again, it's just a way for the Titans kind of get another pick, rebuild. You signed him. You thought you would be better this year. Hasn't worked out. let's move off of him because how many years does he have left? And for Kansas City, I do think the receiving core could use a bit of an upgrade. Here's a way to make it happen. Let's get some blockbusters going, why don't we? First, how about Josey Jewell and Jerry Jeudy to the Bills in exchange for a first-round pick? Now, bit of a several moving parts, might be a bit surprising here. For one thing, if Jeudy is on the trade block, apparently, I do think Denver is the kind of team that might be looking to rebuild, stockpile some picks, given where they're currently at. And so, while first might seem like a bit of a heavy price, again, Josey Jewell, really good and really cheap right now. Jerry Jeudy, I think still good and also really cheap. So for a team like Buffalo, who they couldn't make a Darren Waller, I guess they could make a Darren Waller trade happen, but they can't make every single one of these trades happen because of their cap situation. But because of this, they could still make it work. And yes, you're giving up a first, but you're probably going to be picking late in the first round anyway. So it's not as valuable of a first as it feels like. Because again, we kind of view all first the same, all second the same, all third the same. That's not actually how it works, though. This is going to be picked, 25 to 32, hopefully, you would think. And again, with Milano's injury, that's why they could use an off-ball linebacker, which Jewell is, and he's very good. And again, I feel like I keep saying that because Josey Jewell doesn't get any credit, but he is a good player, and it could help out your receiving core, which kind of has needed a number 2 for a while. Jeudy doesn't have to try to be a number 1 now; he can be a number 2. I think it works for everybody. While we're trading first-round picks, who wants to get on that action is the Rams. How about Brian Burns to the Rams for a first-round pick? Now, this was a rumored trade last season that apparently the Rams offered 2 first-round picks to the Panthers to get Brian Burns. I don't know how true that is. If it is true, though, then Panthers call up the phone and make something like this happen. But even a first-round pick feels kind of more in line with a player who's about to get paid. The Rams love to do this, right? They love to get star players, and they love to trade first-round picks for star players, and then in later rounds draft their depth pieces. They've been better than we realized this year, so the first-round pick wouldn't be overly massive, I don't think, and having Brian Burns next to Aaron Donald I already think they're maybe a playoff team, the Rams are, but this would probably lock them in. And for the Panthers, again, do you really want to be, if you're the Panthers, spending your resources on defense right now when your offense has looked really tough and you're trying to develop a quarterback? It probably makes more sense, trade for a first-round pick. You can use the money you would have spent on Burns, spend it on receiving help or offensive line help, and use that draft pick on help for Bryce Young. I think that would make sense. And while we're trading edge rushers, how about Chase Young to Detroit? The Balls, also known as the Washington football team, also known as the Commanders, would get a 3rd and a 6th round pick back. That is the compensation that feels fair to me. Chase Young is in the last year of his deal. So this is a pure rental at this point. Again, NFL doesn't really do rentals because of the franchise tag. You always have, usually if you want a guy, you can re-sign him. So a rental is a little bit different than it is in hockey. But still, I do think that the Lions could use an extra edge rusher. And it doesn't even have to be a out there every snap player. It can be kind of a 500 snap player, which for Chase Young might be all he can be healthy for anyway. So it kind of works out well. I think Young has looked good when he's been healthy. Just injuries have been an issue, but now he doesn't have to take as many snaps. That helps. Aiden Hutchinson's going to obviously get the attention, but just something to help out this already good defense, I think could make sense. Getting an edge rusher to Detroit. Again, there's been some talk about trading Chase Young. Detroit seemed like a team that would make sense, and you're not giving up a premium, so you're still able to be good in the future. Last trade: Marquise Brown and Zach Ertz to the Cowboys. Cardinals get a 2nd round pick back. Yes, they traded a 1st round pick for Marquise Brown, but that was a mistake. Shouldn't have done that. So now I'm having them trade him back. You're getting a 2nd round pick. Brown's a good player. He's not worth a 1st round pick, but he's a good player. I don't know how much Zach Ertz is adding, but might add something. Can at least be a role player for Dallas. I think could be a solid receiving tight end. Should help out them a little bit. And for Dallas, the Brandon Cooks thing, it made sense. It just hasn't worked out quite yet. But I think Hollywood Brown would really work out as a number 2 option next to CeeDee Lamb. And hey, if Brandon Cooks steps it up, then great. Now you have 3 receivers. If you need a receiver, makes sense. And I do think he would fit that scheme pretty well. So yeah, as a whole, I feel like this would logically make sense in my opinion. So yeah, those are my 8 trades that 8 hypothetical trades that make sense to me. Tell me why I'm stupid in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.